I'll call a roll to establish who's here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fathman, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Robinson, are you here? Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Killeen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Visintainer, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy, are you here? Commissioner Hamilton, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Vines, are you here?
Here.
Okay, I am present. Commissioners, we have a quorum. Has any commissioner looked at any of the June, July, or August 2018 minutes?
August was not submitted.
June or July.
It says approval of June, July, or August 2018 minutes.
I forgot to take
Amend
it
it
off.
to June or July.
So did the person who was making fun of me do that? Okay, has anybody seen the June minutes? Has anybody seen the July minutes?
Oh, my God.
Okay, we will pass.
I think there's a motion.
There's no second, there is a
June and
motion.
July
Is there a
minutes.
second?
Second.
Any changes?
Is it just the August minutes, if I'm not mistaken, haven't been
That
submitted?
is correct, it's just June and July. Okay, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes for June and July 2018 signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Commissioners, we're going to hear agenda item B1108 Dolman first, unless anybody has an objection to that. Commissioner Killeen, this is your fault.
Yes, sir, thank you.
And are you recusing yourself from this discussion?
On A, I will be, but not B.
Okay,
Are we taping? Was there an issue with taping or just audio visual?
I think we're taping and it's fixed.
Awesome.
Agenda item B1108 Dolman.
I don't have anything to show you.
That's okay. What do you want us to do?
Okay, well, hang on, just give me half a second.
Commissioners, this is called paper. It's the old way of doing things. And
Are we gonna go paperless pretty soon? Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying that there's no pictures tonight on the screens.
Oh, I see.
This is a preliminary review application to construct semi-detached townhouses at 1108 Dolman in the Lafayette Square Historic District. It's a preliminary review application. Did I say that? I have a letter in support of the general design from the Lafayette Square Development Committee.
Thank you.
And I had lovely pictures and everything for you, but you have to imagine that this is following a model example on Rutgers Street. And it appears with the drawings that we have, which are fairly preliminary, we don't have any side elevations yet, but we do have a front elevation, and it appears to comply with requirements to follow the model example. So the staff is recommending that the board grant a preliminary approval subject to the usual conditions as the staff review final documents and exterior materials.
Commissioners, I'll give you a minute just to glance through the report beginning on page 5, and then we'll hear from the applicant.
Jane, do you feel any compromises were made to the historic standards with this design?
Front elevation was revised, floor-to-ceiling heights were increased, and the window proportions were narrowed to more closely follow the model example. That was
And
at the request of both the Lafayette Development Committee and the Cultural Resources Office.
And I'm sorry, you probably said this, but what are the sidewalls?
I haven't seen side elevation.
You don't know, okay.
Do you?
It was on that email I sent you.
What can I tell you? Things have been chaotic lately. So, but I guess the developer's here and he will,
I only have one copy. I mean,
well, the board can take a look at it.
Give me some.
Okay, Commissioners, that should be sufficient time to review that. Any questions for Jan?
I will say that the side elevations will be exposed because there are wide side yards on both adjacent properties. So it's important that the design follow the model example on the side elevations as well as the front.
Questions on the left side? Questions on the right side?
Yeah, the streetscape on page 13, it shows between this house and 1114 Dolman, it says Asphalt Drive. What is that?
It looks like all our mics aren't
Hang on just one second. Hang on just one second.
Well, it's not picking up. We're having technical difficulties.
We are.
It's like the first time everyone's actually doing it.
And, question?
So on the streetscape, Jan, on page 13, it shows that between the proposed building and 1114 Dolman Street, it says Asphalt Drive. What's that?
That's the existing drive.
That's what?
This is existing.
That goes back to the alley or something, or what?
I'm not sure it goes back to the alley, but I believe it belongs to the adjacent
Okay,
property.
thank you.
Further questions? Hearing none. Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Oh, taller windows. I mean, they line up, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Did not sign up, but I presume you would like us to do this?
I miss, what was,
You did not sign up to speak, but I presume you would like to?
Sure.
Okay, what are you doing, and what would you like us to do?
Oh, building 2 townhomes.
Uh-huh,
Mr. Callow, can we get his name, please?
yeah.
Jason Ermold. Is this all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Jason Ermold.
And your-
Building 2 townhomes.
And your address?
I'm at 1917 Hickory Street.
Okay. And you're building 2 townhomes.
Correct.
Questions?
So just the drive, does that belong to the neighboring property owner?
Correct, yeah.
And does it go back to the alley then? Is that,
If there wasn't a fence at the end of it, it would.
okay,
There's a church just to the south. The priests live in that home that you're referring to.
Okay.
And they own that little driveway.
got it, okay. And then the lot that's to the north of you, do you own that? Or
No, it's vacant.
Okay, okay.
Questions on this side?
No.
Okay, thank you. And Sessions?
It's not moving. Or it's not moving.
Suzanne Sessions, 1831 Kennett Place, Lafayette Square. Yes, we did review this last Tuesday at our development meeting, and everything up to what we saw, we approved. What are missing at that time, and Jason may have provided them now, were the details for the windows and doors. It has some rather elaborate fluting over the windows and doors, and without that, it would be a lot different looking structure. So we asked on our letter that they be included before the approval is given, temporary approval is given. Jason said that he has now subsequently sent that in.
Okay, I think we're looking at them.
Are you looking at that, the photographs with,
I'm sorry.
Are we looking at details here?
do they have the photographs?
That would be, I sent them in Friday.
No, we're not.
These are plans.
We just have plans.
Asking that these window and door details be included in approval. Do we know what they are?
She asked us to withhold approval until we've seen the windows and doors. Okay,
It's not, I'm not.
Well, I got a question. So,
sorry.
so I'm confused, and Jan, this is partially for you. So I think our staff report said the rear elevation was going to be brick?
Yes, it has to be brick.
Okay, and what this shows is not brick. So is this,
Well, again, these are the drawings that I had not seen.
Okay.
So, yes, really our elevation would have to be brick.
and did you guys review it with brick or not brick?
Not brick.
So would not, having not brick on the rear facade is not in
No,
compliance
I'm
with the
talking
code?
about the front facade is not brick.
Oh, great. But this shows the rear elevation that would face the Parkway, or am I on the other side of the block? Parkway, right? So the rear elevation of this that would face Truman Parkway appears to be hardy board.
Correct.
You know, we did not review that, so
So,
it should be all brick.
right, because doesn't the code require all
Yes,
brick?
Yes.
So, can I have Jan again? So you're saying, you haven't seen this, but you're requiring brick on all four sides,
Standards require brick on all four sides.
and that's what you're recommending?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, obviously, the front will be a plaster.
You're right, I'm sorry. The other,
But the
the,
three sides will be brick,
correct,
yes.
correct.
Anything else?
No, thank you. Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the proposed design with the stipulation that the details and specifications are submitted to the CRO office for review, and final plans and exterior materials are reviewed and approved by the Cultural Resources Office with the express condition that the rear wall of the building be brick.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question for Jan regarding that motion. Jan, would that motion he just made cover this issue of the windows not quite being right on the side, working out details?
Working out details with the staff.
So you could catch that? Okay. It's a good motion, though.
Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor. It has been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, commissioners, we will now return to agenda item A.
Thank you.
And now we have pictures.
And now I can speak, because I can't speak without slides.
Surprisingly helpful, those images.
This is an application to construct a large two-story addition to the rear of 1217 Missouri in the Lafayette Square Historic District. This is 1217. You can see that there is an enormously wide side yard that belongs to the property. It's currently a garden, and therefore, a garden, but the rear addition will be very visible from the street. And there you see the rear addition. I'm kind of afraid to touch anything here. But that's the addition. This is the garden. This is Missouri. And what you see here, this is the existing house. Included in the project is the construction of a side porch. A model example for that has been submitted. This is the addition. This is changed from the original proposal. You can see that there's like a one-story connection here, which will be the only thing visible, so that it will appear to be two separate buildings connected with a little hyphen. I tell you, we're cursed this evening. I can't get it to it, Dan. There we go. The perspective from Missouri looking towards the addition. So you can see it is substantial. The standards do ask that any additions be clearly secondary to the main structure. This is about the same size as the main structure, maybe slightly less. But we believe that seeing it from the street is, its actual mass is going to be reduced. This is the view from the alley. And I don't think this is the current, I believe there's a garage included here right now.
It's still there, it's okay.
Still there? Okay. Very briefly, this is the streetscape. This is the garden. This is the house. And heading down north along Missouri. And this is the opposite context. So you can see how tight the buildings are. There is a pretty staggered building line along Missouri on this side. So, the staff is recommending approval again with the usual requirements of staff review final plans and exterior materials. particularly interested in how it's gonna match, the brick of the addition will match the brick of the house.
Mr. Krasnoff told me last week that this is not the first new flounder constructed in St. Louis. Is that correct?
Is the what?
Is this a flounder?
Ish.
Flounderish?
Flounderish?
There's a new flounder in that conversation.
Questions on the left side?
So Jan, did we approve the wall that's out front some time ago, I guess?
I don't believe so. Many years.
Okay.
Okay. We will address that. Questions on this side? Thank you, Jen. Okay, Commissioner Colleen, right, at this point, Mr. Colleen, where are your pants?
Yes, sir, I must apologize for my attire.
Oh, you look very summery.
Well, thank you. I try, so.
I would have shaded, but
I'm Mike Colleen. My address is 3015 Salina, and I don't know if I need to swear to tell the truth, but I will.
No, preliminary review.
Don't need to, okay. So, yes, this was a challenge. The owner would like, and Jan pointed out there was a garage. I don't know if we can, I don't know, it doesn't matter. You guys have it in your agenda there, but the owner, what's driving this design is the owner would like to have an attached garage, and the only way to pull this off on this really tight site that he found was to put it beneath the building. And so that's why we were pushed backwards as opposed to going to the side with an addition. Also, there was some logistics inside the house for the plan that made us go in this direction. So the initial design, it was sort of similar looking to the building that's there, and working with Cultural Resources and with the folks at Lafayette Square, we came up with that design for the flounder design, and I think it really made for a better project. I told the folks at Lafayette Square, I'm glad they called us on that, because it's a handsome project, and they get a vaulted ceiling up in that master suite now. So, yeah, that's, just wanted to tell you how we got here. And so I know it's all, when we put up these imitation old-fashioned buildings, it's, sort of a lie, but I think it sort of looks interesting, like it would have been back there first, and maybe this building came at the turn of the century. So it's sort of an 1870s design. So, anyway, any questions?
Questions on the left side? Questions on the right side?
So is it brick on the three sides?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Suzanne Sessions?
Suzanne Sessions, 1831 Kennett Place, again. This, like the previous project, is a problem of missing details. This one is a little bit more serious. When this was represented last Tuesday at the development meeting, the owner and developer were still not able to provide the right-of-way from the neighbor whose alley this new development will share, nor the certificate that they own these two adjacent properties. And they promised that they would have them, but as of that meeting, as of today, we have not seen them. So I think they're very important to have them before this project does go through and there's a problem. That's
Thank
it.
you. Great. Commissioners, that concludes the people who have signed up to testify on this one. Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
Yes, I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the proposed addition with final details, materials, and plans to be reviewed and approved by the CRO.
Is there a second?
second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion? Discussion on the right side?
Yeah, I think the issues that Ms. Sessions raised would be vetted before they get building permits and things like that, and not really our purview as part of a preliminary review.
Correct. Commissioners? Okay. There's a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioners, we're going to take a 2-minute recess and deal with an issue that has arisen.
Richard, we're ready when you are.
I am ready.
Okay.
Okay, the next agenda item is a preliminary review at 2117 South 13th Street in the Soulard Historic District. So this proposal is a preliminary review, as I said, and it is seeking a curb cut and driveway and parking pad. This is the property in question, so the curb would be approximately here. And they proposed pavers as the parking pad itself. Here's a map. So this is our building. It faces 13th Street. There's an alley here. This is actually inaccurate. This building no longer exists. It has been replaced by an apartment building that basically is L-shaped on the lot this way. There is no, you can see the lots here. The land right behind the building in question is not owned by the owner of the building we're looking at, if that is clearer than mud. So the owner of the property, which is for sale currently, is seeking approval of the board to have this curb cut go in place. You can see here in this picture, as I said, the apartment building that just got built in the last couple of years extends here. Here's the other side of it. It's kind of L-shaped along the sort of off-ramp to Highway 55 here on the other side of this building, and then it wraps around Russell Street and then onto 13th Street. And here's our lovely 19th century building, and the proposed curb cut is here. A complicating factor with this is that the Soulard standards do not address whether curb cuts are allowed or not allowed in the historic district. The only language that directly relates to this is sort of saying you can't change the slope of a yard, which I guess you could argue a curb cut requires, a small slope to, get up onto the sidewalk. But at the end of the day, a big reason why this is coming to you all is that this isn't directly addressed by the standards, so the interpretation falls to the board. Here you can see the drawing submitted by the applicant who is here tonight. They are proposing a paving pad here, and then a driveway that would go here, where there's this wood fence currently. So the staff recommendation is in support of this proposal. As I said, the back of the property is not owned, does not go along with this property. It goes along with the property facing the side street. Here we see the apartment again with our building on the left. This is behind the building, so the property line for the house in question extends only about 3 feet behind the building. And this building owns the land that spreads out behind it, where you would normally, have access for off-street parking and things like that. This is a view looking south on 13th Street, so our building is immediately to the left, right over here, and then we're looking south this direction. This is a daycare center, which actually has a curb cut across the street. But I'd be reluctant to do too much apples to apples, orange to oranges comparisons here. I would think each of these are considered, this kind of question about curb cuts should be considered on a separate basis, and parking pads. And then this is a view looking north. Again, we've got our apartment building here, and going up to the north towards Tucker Boulevard, 12th Street, over there at the end of 13th Street. The staff recommendation is that there are unusual circumstances here in terms of there is no availability for off-street parking, and that's why the ask is for this approval. The Soulard Restoration Group has reviewed this, and their board of directors, I don't have a letter from them, but I do have a message and email that really wasn't written in a way that was public, but they are the Soulard Restoration Group is opposed to this project as submitted. Their concern is that it They're worried there would be a large number of requests for off-street parking if this would be approved. And I think that's a legitimate concern. I happen to feel in this case that this is on the sort of the edge of the neighborhood. The owner doesn't have access to what almost everyone else in the neighborhood has, which is off-street parking, as they try to sell their building. And I think in this case, the creation of this parking pad is not going to have a significant impact on the visual appearance of the historic district.
Communication from the alderman?
The alderman does not have strong feelings, but supports the neighborhood.
Questions, commissioners? Questions? Thank you. Devereaux? Hello, Mr. Devereaux. Thank you for your patience as we sort through our technology issues this afternoon.
Well, thank you for hearing my request.
What do you want us to do?
Well, I'm Mike Devereaux, 2117 South 13th Street. I'm sure those of you who've been in the Soulard area are familiar with parking for residents is kind of challenging with, I'm like a block from Tucker's and McGurk's and 2 blocks from Nadine's. And anyway, parking is...
I probably parked there.
Parking can be challenging. With the new apartment building, over 100 apartments, even though they have a garage for parking for the building, there's going to be visitors. Some families will have more than one car. Anyway, I envision parking becoming even more of a challenge. I brought that to the attention of Mr. Kotar, the alderman, and I have an email where he says he would support my request for a driveway.
Does he want to submit it?
You want to give that to Adana?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm requesting a driveway cut. The back of the house there, where the parking pad would be, is already an existing little patio area that made of brick pavers. So there wouldn't be any construction there. The fence already exists, and it does have a double gate that swings in. So the only real construction would be the cutting of the curb and the run-up to the fence. So that's basically what I'm asking of the board today, is to approve that request.
Questions from the right side? Questions from the left side?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait, so do you live there now?
I'm sorry?
Is this where you live?
Well, actually, the house is for sale. We're not residing there per se. I spend a lot of time over there mowing the grass and cleaning the house and fixing and painting and those sorts of things to try and get the house sold. I would like to add that as people have come to view the house, a frequent concern has been through the realtor that parking being an issue. So this would help alleviate that concern.
Well, did you ever live here, or is this like...
Oh, yes, 27 years.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we live downtown now in a condo, so.
Got it, okay.
Which building? Which building?
Oh, the Edison building,
Nice building.
nice building.
Gwen Cogshell? Anything? Anybody named Gwen? Okay. Commissioners, that apparently concludes the testimony on this request. Commissioner Colleen, you have a motion down there?
I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to allow the construction of the driveway and parking pad due to the unusual site conditions and subject to final review of details and materials by the Cultural Resources Office.
A second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Killeen?
They're in a tight spot there. We had a similar issue up in Benton Park. Got to park your car somewhere. And it looks like, I think if it can be done properly, there's one on 12th Street where you can actually see the old cobblestones coming off the street, and people are parking on that, an old abandoned alley. Maybe it could be treated somewhat like that, to, sort of add to the fabric of the neighborhood, be interesting. I think it would help with your resale, too.
Yeah.
It's not just asphalt, Be kind of fun, find some old cobblestones or something.
Testimony on this side? Questions on this side? Comments on this side? Okay. We'll vote, and I'm going to call a roll call for this. Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Byzantino, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Fathman, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. No nos, the motion carries. Okay, Commissioners, next up, agenda item D, 2108 Ann Avenue.
Okay, this is another preliminary review proposal, this time in the McKinley Heights Local Historic District, at 2108 Ann Avenue. And this proposal this situation bears some similarity to the last one we just saw, in that the proposal, which is to replace a front lawn with artificial turf, is not addressed in the McKinley Heights Historic District standards. So it falls to the board to figure out what's what. The applicant, who's here tonight and will speak for himself, has expressed concern about, I would say I've heard two or three things. One is that he has trouble properly maintaining the lawn. He has concerns about allergies and about the cost of every year having to resod it. The Historic District Code does not speak directly to this, although I will note that the ordinance itself, which we don't typically quote in these proceedings, states that the proposed standards to be applied within the district, including but not limited to demolition of facades, setbacks, height, scale, materials, colors, and texture for all structures, and the design details of all fences, streets and drives, street furniture signs, and landscape materials are set out in the Historic District Development Plan and Design Standards. So it alludes in this general language to the regulation of landscape materials, but there is no direct reference to appropriate or inappropriate landscape materials, knowing that the whole purpose of historic districts is to maintain the historic appearance of a neighborhood. The reason for the staff objection to this proposal is that I do worry that if this proposal were approved and others like it, that it would change the appearance of the historical landscape of the neighborhood, which has traditionally been grass on front lawns. But as I said, the standards speak only very generally to landscape materials, and I could see the argument that they aren't directly addressed here, but I do worry about the effect it would have on the historic district if folks started putting artificial turf on their front lawns. I actually have pictures here. This is the front of the building in question. Right? And then this is an image that was provided me by the applicant. And these are just some pictures looking up and down the south side of Ann Avenue. There's a commercial building at the corner, and then residential buildings extending west down the block. And then this is a picture of the north side of the street, extending west as well. You can see that there are terraced front lawns, which are pretty typical in our city historic districts in general, and are what we see here. And I don't know how it got there, but with that, I will take any questions.
I have two before I ask the other
Okay.
commissioners. The first is, I'm a big fan of Boise State. Is the color of the artificial turf specified?
Well, the example I was given was green, so we could ask the applicant that, but my assumption, or my presumption is that it would be green based on what was submitted.
And in the fall, when the other yards go brown, will the green be replaced with brown?
I have never thought to ask that question.
I wouldn't have thought it either, but
No, they'll just say it's.
somebody did.
Grass, and it's green all year round.
Okay.
Right. There are grasses that don't turn brown in the fall.
Fair.
Yes.
Commissioners, questions on the right side? Commissioners, questions on the left side?
I have a question for Commissioner Richardson. What do you feel? Is this something that we can even review? It's not in the ordinance. I mean, from a legal perspective, is
Well, I think,
kind of like saying what color should our car be? I mean, it's not really.
well, it's part of the, I mean, it's part of the property, it's part of the, and again, as the Cultural Resource Office pointed out, the ordinance actually says landscaping material. So, I mean, it was contemplated, we just don't have any specific
Guidelines.
regulations on it. So it is in the purview, obviously. It was in the ordinance that approved the historic district that landscaping was important and should be reviewed.
Okay.
Again, we just don't have guidance.
I would note that question probably belongs to Barb.
But I agree with everything that you
You
said.
could have jumped in there.
I just needed a
I can feel you
lawyer.
gasping over there, Commissioner.
Any old lawyer would do.
Sir,
My question was for Director Krasnoff. Are you aware of what Boise State's field looks like?
I'm embarrassed to admit, being somewhat of a college football fan, I have seen their very blue football field before, yes.
Okay.
I had an office within sight of that field for about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
It is bright.
Yes.
I do have letters of opposition, one from the McKinley Heights Neighborhood Association and one email I received today that I'd like to distribute to the board members.
Thank you. Okay, let's hear from the applicant. Mr. Cox?
First of all, thanks for having me. Secondly, it's not blue, it's green all the time. It actually is going to provide curb appeal. If you
Okay,
go
let's
through that-
start from the beginning. Who are you?
I'm Corey Cox, 2108 Ann.
Thank you, go ahead.
If you go up and down that street, terrible weed issue. Terrible weed. I have allergies, okay? So first, I've traveled for work, probably 6 to 7 days a week. I'm never home. So I have to hire and solicit someone to cut the grass. Obviously, everyone who has a lawnmower, they're gonna have other business with others. So you're gonna have weeds within those lawnmowers. So when you cut my grass, even if I resod it, which we had folks come out, it's $2,300 for what I want. This does the job for about $5,500. So I would have to resod my lawn every year. Because weeds are gonna come from each side, right? I have allergies. Weeds are gonna come from each side. I also have had some people in my family. There's issues with chemicals and pesticides within resodding, things that you use. The synthetic approach is actually, and it's not artificial turf, it's synthetic grass, it's Kentucky blue. So it's the prettiest thing out there. If you've ever seen it, you saw that yard, that's an actual yard that Extreme had completed. So for my neighbors, everyone there eventually, or maybe if they stay there, if they ever want to sell their home, they can look at that home and say, wow, that's curb appeal. That's beautiful grass. You don't even know the difference. You don't know that it's synthetic. I think the problem here is a lot of folks don't realize just how frequent in St. Louis you see synthetic grass. A lot of the folks that you walk into their grass and you're like, wow, they have a beautiful lawn. Synthetic. You have folks that have animals. They don't want to subject their animals to pesticides and chemicals. You have, like I said, allergy issues. And with me being where I'm at, even when someone comes over and I have a lawn person that actually handles and facilitates that, I don't even have time to pay them. I'm never in town. So I have to catch them when I catch them, right? And take that, and we don't want to say this out loud, or put something under the vase, to pay them. So it's just, for me, and it may not fit for everyone else, it's the perfect idea and a perfect thing. And if you guys saw, that was an actual picture of the work Extreme did on a lawn. So absolutely beautiful. And you mentioned a brown grass. Everyone on my street, everyone's grass is brown. And it never changes, even in the summer, because of weeds blowing, and we share the same weeds. So you just can't have that curb appeal. And I recently purchased a property in June, and I'm looking at it, and from the day I purchased it, I said, this lawn is actually horrible. And there's nothing you can do. I would have to resod it each and every year. And look at this approach, and I appreciate the board, but I looked at the economics of it as well as my travel, as well as my allergies. We're talking about over a 10-year period, $17,000 difference. If I go ahead and get this done synthetically, it's X. If I resod it every year, it's $2,300 every year. So that's my situation and what I'm going through here. It's just looking for other alternatives. It's just not, this is probably the best alternative I have. And I've had the guys come out to talk residing, and believe it or not, his approach was, you'd be better off with the synthetic. Because there's weeds here, weeds there. I'm going to come every year. I'm going to have to come every year. And there's a tree owned by the city also directly in the lawn coming down that seeps off all kinds of stuff. So the last person that owned this property, I happened to have had a conversation with her. She had allergy issues, all kind of humidifiers throughout the home. She echoed my sentiments that, I had this yard for 4 years. I had to do X, Y, Z every year. So it just doesn't fit what I want to do economically, health-wise, and with my travel. I just can't devote as much time with it as well, so.
Questions on the left side?
So are you saying that this artificial grass is like the dog mats that they sell?
No, it's a little different. I mean, dogs find it more comfortable, people with animals. That's one of if you talk to with Extreme, a lot of their clientele are folks, it's a softer feel, it's thick. It's not like, I'm not trying to set a putting tee on my front lawn. The grass is thick, it's beautiful, but yeah, it's. Is
it the same type of material? I'm just trying to, because I've ordered one of those dog mats, and It
is probably a little bit better than that, because I'm looking at the most expensive, the Kentucky Blue. So a lot of it's made out of that, but it's definitely synthetic, but it is you saw the picture, it's I think it's gorgeous. I think it gives you curb appeal. That's it.
Are you a little afraid of becoming a dog magnet?
I'm not. I just, when I purchased the property, I've done some, it's a nice property, but the first thing I noticed before I purchased it, I don't have a back lawn. I have a patio.
Further questions on this end?
I quoted that this grass is horrible, but I didn't use those words. Let's just say that.
Well, a couple of questions. So, Mr. Cox, I guess because I played football, I'm aware it's not AstroTurf, and I know what the new synthetic grass is like because I played football, and I am aware that it's a pretty good looking product, and I have spec'd it on rooftop decks where the neighborhood didn't see it. But you understand you're in a historic district, and
I understand I'm in a historic district also with all brown grass. And I don't think that gives our district a good look. And also since '94, just giving you some Extreme talk with me about this. They were in '94 doing about 3 lawns a year. Now it's about 30 semi-annually. This whole product, and I don't know when you play football, college football, synthetic grass is not like it was. It's not the blue. It's totally different product now.
Well, the blue at Boise is actually new. I mean, that's not an
Right.
old.
But I mean, just
I mean,
any
it's-
synthetic grass, the way they're fixing it and manufacturing it now, is totally different.
I mean, I've seen it as recently as last year because I've spec'd it. But have you considered, because while zoysia does not is not green throughout the year, it does, because of the nature of the grass, combat weeds. And while with every grass it is probably helpful to weed and seed, you don't necessarily have to weed and seed zoysia. The downside to zoysia is obviously in the wintertime it turns brown, but when it comes back, nothing grows in it.
What?
You have shade
So
problem
do-
issues?
Well,
Oh, there's a city tree right in front of the property.
So zoysia doesn't sometimes do as
City
well.
tree right in front of the property that actually drops
yeah, I mean,
things right in the yard also.
It's a good suggestion.
yeah, but I'm looking at the photograph and it's getting some sun, and if it gets some sun, then it does not take a lot. And I only say that because I am allergic to grass, and so I actually was thankful to play on synthetic grass, but
I have that same issue. And I have allergies pretty terrible. So it is economically, like, you know what, it's not only a health issue, because when I come there, I don't want allergies, I don't want that situation, but I also don't want, I mean, the economics of it, there's no fixing it. If I could fix it economically, I would. I would fix the issue, but the issue is unfixable because of the tree and because of the weed issues that we have. There's no one on that street that you would walk by and you'd say, wow, they have a nice lawn. No one. Well, I'm talking in June.
yeah, I'm simply asking if you've considered other options, because there are a number of grasses that do
Absolutely.
some of the,
Further questions on this
I consider the
side?
other option from having the guys come out, from the resodding guys who said, you're going to have this issue every year. And I had them out as well, and they economically gave me what it would cost for me to do this, and it's just,
sure.
Just what I'm running into.
You wouldn't be resodding, though, to be clear. You would, because you.
well, according to them, they're saying it would be $2,300.
You would not
every year.
You would absolutely not, or in the form of a question, you understand that with zoysia, you would not have to resod every year. And with most grasses, tall fescue, for instance, while you might have to actually overseed every year, which is not a $2,300 investment, you would have to do that, but it is not to the degree that you are stating, or at least that your potential
I can only have the
contractor is
professionals
stating.
come out. And another issue, like I said, upkeep, I'm not there. So I have to continue to cut. I mean, when we do the upkeep and when it does get cut, there's still a weed problem. Because the lawnmower, I mean, there's a lot of different moving parts here.
That's why I named a specific grass for you.
Zoysia doesn't have
That-
this problem,
that
she's right.
It does, I am,
But it needs sun, and there's a tree in I mean, did anyone
there-
take the picture?
Okay, Commissioner, thank
Definitely
you.
get
Commissioner
sun,
Hamilton?
I was just wondering, have you tried other options? How long have you had this property?
Well, like I said, my thing was for them to come out and give me an evaluation of the lawn. St. Louis
You bought the
Lawn Care
property in
put 'em
June?
out.
Yeah.
I've been in since June, but I remember, I knew the previous resident. She had the same issue. And we had that discussion, and she says, I mean, since she was there, she said she was residing and doing that every year. So, that's my issue. And I had professionals come out. I mean, I didn't want to take, that's what people are not understanding, I didn't want to take the $6,000 approach right away, as opposed to the $2,300, but it's just going to continue to be an issue. That every year if it's an issue, that is the best approach to it. It's not. So, and I had them out there, and like I said, they gave me that, that's their profession, so that's what I used.
Can I speak, Richard?
I'm sorry, yes.
My mother moved up here from Houston, Texas in 1950 and was allergic to St. Louis until she died. I mean, that just happens, unfortunately, with a lot of people in our family, too, and opera singers that just have a real problem. So even if you had the yard in front of you that you thought was going to be weed-free or whatever, there's stuff in the air that is going around, so you're really never gonna,
And I agree wholeheartedly.
so.
I can only try to solve the problem I have in front of me. I can't force them to have that. And I personally think synthetic grass is somewhere where a lot of folks are gonna go in the next 10 years or so. The people that are the green folks and the people that have an understanding of green, when they look at the chemicals and the pesticides and certain things, they're gonna have the same approach. And you're gonna have a lot of people that actually think that this is a better approach. That's just my opinion, but.
Okay, thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Now, the audience has sat through a fairly lengthy discussion on artificial turf. Is anybody else who did not sign up to speak need to ask or speak? Sir,
I just want to jump in. I'm a contractor. Sorry.
who are you?
My name is Nicholas Uhl. I'm a contractor.
Address?
6636 Neosho.
Okay, jump in.
I would just want to add, I have no skin in the game. I installed an artificial turf in Clayton this past spring, previous spring, and it was beautiful and it was by Extreme. So again, I have nothing else to add, but it was a really good facsimile of a lawn, of a normal lawn. It has like 3 different layers and they lay together, and you put sand in it, and it kind of approximates a really pretty looking lawn. And once you get stuff in the yard, like leaves and twigs or whatever, it looks like an actual turf. And so, anyway, the owners were happy. That's all I have to say. I just wanted to jump in.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, commissioners, that concludes the testimony on the
Yeah.
turf. Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board withhold preliminary approval to replace the grass lawn with artificial turf.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there discussion? Further discussion?
So it's a beautiful product. I have spec'd it and used it on a rooftop deck. I don't think it's appropriate in a historic district on a front lawn.
I am hoping that the applicant, if this is not a successful motion, thinks about moving downtown to Washington Avenue, where we have no damn grass at all.
And I have grass and I have asthma-induced allergies to grass.
You also have bats.
And I have bats. and I don't mow my lawn, but and even with that being said, my neighbors do, and I have to close my windows when they are, because that's enough to set it off. So this isn't the answer.
Anybody else on this side?
Well, just try the zoysia for 1 year is what I would do.
Yeah.
Because that is a good thought.
Mr. Killeen, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just not convinced that this is something we should be considering, because there's just not, what I'm reading here that staff has provided, it just doesn't address it. Are we writing law here? Are we making rules that don't exist? This guy, it's his property. He's following historic district standards. There's nothing in there that says he can't do this. Who are we to stop him? This was done at the corner of 12th and Sydney Street in the Soulard Historic District. Did anybody complain about that one, Jan? Do you know about that? The Left Field Creative, their front yard there. So it looks fine, and I'm sure the stuff that this gentleman has told us about, I mean, you know, it's probably getting better, but regardless of that, I feel like we're writing law here, and we're overstepping our bounds.
Okay.
So,
Further comments on this side?
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I just pulled up the ordinance, and there is the provision, the same slope and grade kind of section that I think implied in that is, you know, again, it says the historic slope of a yard should not be altered at the public facade unless it has sometime already been altered, and then it should be restored to its original configuration. And I get slope is, you know, again, the incline, but it's saying it shouldn't be altered, and this certainly is an alteration. I mean, again, I think laying this stuff down, you're going to be altering what that slope is.
well, you
I
could
don't know
keep
how
the
you-
slope and change the material.
I think this
I think
provision
that-
is kind of implicit that, you know, again, we're not allowing people to pave over their front yards. We're not allowing people to astroturf them.
Nah, I don't think it's implied in there. I think we're writing it. Disagree.
We will settle that.
Can I say one thing? I kind of agree with both Commissioner Richardson and Colleen.
That was the contribution.
In that, but my one concern, I'm actually pretty neutral about it. I don't have an opinion one way or the other about AstroTurf. I just wonder what kind of precedent it sets if, you know, you allow this and then the next person in McKinley Heights likes the color pink and wants pink AstroTurf or purple or fluorescent. Or blue, and you know, where does it end, or does it need to end? Is that okay too? So I don't know. I'm just raising the dilemma.
Fair. Anybody else?
Well, I think it's time for the historic districts to catch this in their codes if they don't want it in their neighborhoods, so.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, could we get, I thought Director Krasnoff mentioned something to the effect, or something regarding landscaping, but could we get clarification?
Did.
Was landscaping materials.
The actual ordinance, so the historic districts have two components. There's the ordinance creating the district, and then there are the standards that are typically when a district is created, a component of that, and often
Seems clear.
when folks go through the Board of Aldermen to amend the standards, then the standards become a separate ordinance. In the case of McKinley Heights, they have never amended their standards, but still within the main body of the ordinance, not the standards, it delineates what the standards can be about and what the goals of the standards are. And what it says, as I quoted and is quoted on page 18 here, is the language of the ordinance that the standards can include the following items, and one of those is landscape materials. Now, I guess I would say in defense of the ordinances, it's really hard for a legislator or a neighborhood committee or staff, when they're creating these standards, to think of every possible proposal that could possibly come forth and specifically prohibit or allow that thing. And frankly, I think this is one of the reasons, and Barbara, you can correct me if you think I'm overstating here, but I think one of the purposes of the Preservation Board is to ferret out what these ordinances and standards mean when they have general sorts of language. And I want to make it clear as director, I'm not saying that it clearly states the standards prohibit what Mr. Cox wants to do. It states that landscape materials are can be subject of the ordinance. And I think at a certain point you have to pull back to what the purpose of a historic district ordinance is. And in my mind, the purpose of a historic district ordinance is to maintain the basic character of this place. Whereas the places that aren't historic districts, by definition, can, change in dramatic ways as time goes by. And here you're trying to sort of preserve that original period of significance that is the district. And the question for the board is these grass terrace lawns with natural grass kind of how critical a part of the historic district character is that? And I think that's the question for the board. And I hope I've answered the question and not just made it more complicated.
Commissioners,
Pretty thorough for me.
there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. We'll do this by roll. Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Abstain.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Vizentino, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Fathman, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, did I call you?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstention. The motion carries. Thank you. Commissioners, we will now consider new applications, beginning with 29 Kingsbury Place.
Yes.
This is number 29 Kingsbury Place, current appearance. The proposal before you is to continue painting it. It was begun without a permit. And as you'll see in a minute, it was actually a Flemish bond brick building. And it is located on Kingsbury Place in the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace Landmark District. This is a close-up of the porch posts. And I think if you have very good eyes, you can possibly see the remnants of the Flemish bond underneath the porch. Lost my little here, maybe if you look, probably if you turn and look here, you can very slightly see it. What you can't see are all of the ornamentation that exists on the porch posts, because those are actually quite painted. And you can also see that the difference between what was originally red brick and a stucco third story is totally lost. This is what the building used to look like. I got this from Zillow, so I don't have a very high resolution photo of it, but you can see that there are stone and terracotta inset panels. There's a lot of decorative elements that are lost with the new paint. I will admit that it probably needed to be cleaned. It doesn't look very attractive in the current state. But if you compare the two posts, I think you can see what the new paint has done to change the character of the building. This is a shot of the other side, and now you can see the difference between the two, which is part of the architectural character of the house. Okay? So the Cultural Resource Office received a complaint that painting was being done without a permit. We went out and we said, verified that in fact it was, and we issued a stop work order. That was on August 29th. Subsequently, the owner came in, said she was unaware that she needed a permit for this, that she had had some misdirection by the trustees of the place, and she stopped the work and applied for a permit to continue the painting. Now, the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace neighborhood is one of the older districts and is less specific in its standards, but it does have a couple of areas that address this, and one is that exterior materials give continuity to the appearance of the historic district, and the same materials must be used. And secondly, under architectural details, on existing structures, they shall be maintained in a similar size, detail, and material. The Cultural Resources staff feels that the application of paint, even though part of it is a whitewash that is somewhat translucent, has radically altered the character of this very fine house. Now, I went up and down the street this morning. There are 63 properties on Kingsbury Place. Number 4 is a stucco. It is painted, but it is a stucco original building. So is number 12. And number 32, again, is stucco. Number 11 is a stone facade. And number 62, which is a later building, may have once been painted. It's kind of been wearing off, as far as I could tell. And number 41 is a brick building that certainly was painted. We had no permit for it. So, as the board members know, we don't have our own inspectors. We have to rely on complaints. So the staff is recommending that the Preservation Board deny the application and that the paint be removed and the house restored to its original appearance.
Questions on the left side? Questions on the right side?
Is there a risk of damaging the?
Not if it's properly done.
Okay.
It hasn't been on there very long, so the quicker it comes off, the easier it will come off.
Further questions? Thank you. Okay, let's hear from the applicant first, April Freund.
I'm April Freund,
Thank you.
29 Kingsbury.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. Thank you guys for what you do, because my husband Chris and I moved here 20 years ago and fell in love with the architecture here, and really do believe and respect the work you're doing here to try to maintain the cultural integrity of these homes. We love renovation. It's not our primary work, but we love it, and especially the rich inventory of architectural, special homes in this area. This is the third house we've done on this particular street. We moved a lot over the last 15 years because we actually live in them and finish them and then, move on to the next one after a few years. We take a lot of pride in trying to follow the code and the regulations. So for this project, before anything got started, Nick is our general contractor. He called the office, and I have a diagram here from the internet that shows that there is a plot, and Kingsbury and Washington Terrace is not highlighted in the yellow. And I believe you were told that it didn't follow since it was a private street, that it fell out of scope. So we did do that checking, and we lived there before, so I knew one of the trustees, Greg Manana, and called him and had a conversation about the fact that we might want to whitewash the brick. He said, we don't have any prohibition to that, but it's a common courtesy to talk to your neighbors, so we sent letters and that sort of thing. We find ourselves in a bit of a predicament, and we really feel like we did due diligence, and we've gotten to this point. And I've been told by my painter, Brendan Wilkes, who has Paint the Town, who's been in business 30 years, that because this is a stain, that if we try to take it off, it will do way more harm than good. And we had 4 or 5 neighbors come up while he was painting to say how grateful they were that we took on this project, and they loved the paint. They think it's making the neighborhood better, much more cheerful. So, we feel like if we could finish this to completion, it would make the neighborhood and that home much more cheerful. And I have a picture here that shows that on the porch, it actually does pop some of that special masonry. You can see it more clearly. And this home was professionally power washed very much, and it didn't look very much different. On top of the fact, it's been tuck pointed in stages all over the house. So there's so much inconsistency on it that we believe that this application of this is the best way to aesthetically improve the look of not just this house, but the neighborhood. So I'd respectfully request that you consider our application.
Is it your testimony that the property is not in the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace Landmark District?
Oh, it's on Kingsbury Place. But if you look at this particular diagram, I don't know if you see it, but it's white, and all the other historic districts are like yellow. So we felt like we did due diligence before we endeavored on this. And
I don't understand your point.
well, we worked hard to make sure that if we started this, that we could finish it, because we don't try to go against code or anything, and this was very confusing. And then I read the standards, the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace standards. It doesn't address this whatsoever. It's not unlike the artificial turf thing. It talks about materials, but I think they're talking more about if you're doing an addition and things like that. So, we felt like we really did due diligence to do the right thing, because we do respect the architecture and the historic, significance of St. Louis. So, with 4 neighbors saying they really appreciate it and they believe that it will improve the look of the neighborhood. This is the worst house on the street in its current state like that. And it just, I don't know if you have other pictures, but I sent plenty that show that it just brightens it up and it makes it look much better. And, you know,
This is what you sent me, the PDF?
yes, that, but I have other pictures of the actual, if you want these, I have several copies. that are a
Jen,
little more.
was it your testimony that the property is located in the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace Landmark District?
It is, and the reason that it's donut hole out of the map that you're looking at is that's the map of the Central West End District.
I'm sorry?
That's the map of the Central West End District. Had you gone to another site that talked about the Landmark District, you would have had a map of the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace.
Okay, I went to the,
Includes Kingsbury and Washington Terrace.
okay. I was obviously confused, but I thought I had done due diligence because I went to the Cultural Resources site, and that took me to the Kingsbury, Washington Terrace Rehabilitation New Construction Standards.
Right.
So, obviously, we've made a mistake. It was not intended to be a mistake, and we want to do the right thing by making sure we preserve this building. And I've been assured by the painter with all that experience that it cannot be taken off without damaging the brick and the mortar. And it would be an incredibly expensive remedy, whereas most of the neighbors really like the look, and the house 5 doors down has painted brick. And, I mean, so our assumption was it was allowed. So, with respect,
One house out of 62.
yes, but it is a painted brick house 5 doors down, and to me, this was the best solution to brighten this house and make it beautiful again.
Okay, comments on the left side? Questions on the left side, sorry.
It's sort of a question for both. Is it possible to stain this thing back to the color that we want? If you can't get the stain off, can we stain it
The
back?
problem is that the color has changed the character of the building.
Right.
But it's also obscured a lot of very subtle detailing, as you can see if you take a look at,
Yeah, I mean, the detail has been lost.
Oh, the different colored bricks.
yeah. there
I
are-
have a
there are-
picture that shows that it really does highlight it,
Let me see those
if they'd like to see it.
You can
Let me see those
have
Okay.
pictures.
picture.
This is the front porch. And these, because everything was so dark, those little pieces didn't show up. Would you like them?
Yes, thank you very much.
I didn't bring enough for everybody. I'm
We'll
sorry.
pass them around, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, she gave us two.
Thanks.
Okay, so the first question is the plan to do the entire house?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
And
let...
this is in process. It's not even the finished
Yeah,
product.
no, I'm familiar with stained brick. That being the case, while I understand that the removal of stain is very difficult, it can be done, which requires surface abrasion of the brick to remove it. However, the reason I state that is because we currently only have the front facade versus the other 3 facades,
That's
so...
because we had a stop work order.
Right, and so that's a good thing because we're only dealing with the front at this point. But yeah, unfortunately, after it's removed, then you have to come back and apply several coats of sealer on the brick. So I agree that it brightens the house But I guess my question for you, in looking at the original photograph, and I don't disagree that some tuck pointing needs to be done, and quite honestly, the only way to probably make this brick look nice again is to do some surface abrasion anyway. So with that being said, it's actually not the end of the world, because you're probably not going to, just power washing this will not achieve what you're looking for. So there will be abrasion that has to happen, and then you will have to seal the brick. But what the staining does do, and I don't know if to you can see this, it eliminates all of the detail that's in this architectural
doesn't.
design.
If you see it in person, it really does not, because because the detail was so dark that it kind of faded into there too.
No, so I'm looking at, so I've been over, I've seen the house, but I'm also looking at this, and I've seen this house prior to the change, and I'm saying the stone coping, the stone that's in the columns, the stone that's occurring up at the top, all of that's being lost with.
What if we did that in an accent color so you could see it?
No.
No?
That's, no.
Commissioners, questions on this side?
No further questions.
Questions on this side? Okay, the Neighborhood Association is here. Let's hear from them.
I had his address as Waterman Place.
I do
Do you live
too.
on Waterman or Kingsbury?
I live on Waterman.
Okay, that's a street, a block away.
My name is William Seibert. I live at 54 Waterman Place, and I will tell the truth. I would like to enter into the record a letter from the Central West End Planning and Development Committee, and then make a couple of comments. The Central West End Planning and Development Committee strongly endorses the recommendation of the Cultural Resources Office that the Preservation Board deny the application to continue the unauthorized painting of the exterior of the subject property located in the Kingsbury-Washington Terrace Landmark Historic District. The before and after photographs of the property included in the Crow presentation to the Preservation Board demonstrate clearly the profound alteration of the appearance and character of the building resulting from the ill-advised attempt to brighten its presence. Accordingly, the permit application should be denied and the property owner required to restore the building to its original condition. I would just reiterate what the staff has pointed out, that there was a lot of detail in the brick and stone and terracotta on this house that is clearly obscured. It looks totally different in appearance, and standards do require that these houses, the appearance be preserved. Having said that, I think perhaps somebody should get some clarification as to whether and how it's possible to remove it. I don't know that it is impossible to do. I think Commissioner Robinson pointed out that this can be done using things other than sandblasting. I know there are materials that are used and recommended by the National Trust in their pamphlets on how to deal with masonry and restore it. So I would hope that could be, those instructions could be consulted. The other thing I would just say as an aside, in reading materials, I happened to read this current edition of Design St. Louis, and there's an article there where an interior decorator is asked how to improve a house and mentions Paint also goes a long way. Painted brick is kind of in right now. Blah, blah, blah. I think this is a problem that happens when interior decorators are asked to work on the exterior of historic architecture. But that's an aside. I just feel very strongly that this needs to be, the standards need to be upheld, which require the preservation of the appearance and character of the building. And I would say that 41 Kingsbury Place has been painted since time immemorial. That house was painted decades and decades ago, long before there were any standards, historic district standards on Kingsbury Place.
Commissioners, that concludes testimony on this subject. Commissioner Visintainer, have you got a motion down there?
Yes, I'd like to move that the board deny the application to paint the existing building as it does not comply with the Kingsbury Washington Terrace Landmark District standards.
Is there a second, Commissioners?
Second.
Several seconds. Donna, did you get one of them?
I've got both.
Okay. Discussion? Hearing none. Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I've been told that the trim, the facade and all that, the fascia and all that, we can paint that whatever color we want, correct?
Discuss that with the staff.
We just regulate wood trim.
Okay.
Oh,
What about the separate?
Could you discuss this with the staff over there? Thanks. Commissioners calling agenda item F. You just step out?
It's yes.
Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break. Thank you for your patience. Our commissioners are all back.
Went to the doctor, they gave me.
Okay, 4104 Detonti. You will remember this project. It's a large development along the 4100 block of Detonti Street. It was approved by the Preservation Board concept a couple of years ago. But something's changed, and what was originally proposed for this end of the development area.
They cut my grass down, okay.
This is the actual development area. It includes the rehabilitation of existing building on the left, and then new construction of large apartment buildings and 2 families on the sides. So, this is the property we're looking at tonight, which is 4104 Detonti. And what's changed from what the board saw originally was that this was proposed, these 2 parcels were proposed for a 2-family building. A new owner has actually purchased both properties and is constructing a single family. So the problem with that really is the fact that the side yards therefore will be quite wide and therefore exposed to street view. Here is the original proposal that the board saw with the two families circled. And again, as a street elevation. And on the right was what was proposed for the site. On the left is what is now proposed. So, and this is a revised aerial perspective showing the new building on the bottom. And right next to it is some slight alterations to the proposed 2-family, which is still in the plan, just so that the buildings blend together better. Nothing, I think, that is of significance for the board. But this is the side elevation that's on the east and will be 22 feet from the corner building. It has been revised to some degree to reflect the staff's concerns about having enough brick. This is the opposite side, which was kind of what it originally was proposed to be on the east as well, but this has been altered. And this is an example of the brick and the siding. I hope this is right, Sarah, isn't it? It's going to be very similar to that on the existing apartment building. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. Here's an already built 2-family and the apartment building. It's quite a substantial structure, and then the rehabilitated building at 4158. So the staff is recommending approval to the revisions to the original preliminary review, and recommending that the Preservation Board approve this exam.
Is the applicant here? Great. Let's just see if we have any questions for you, and we might be able to speed this up, or we might not.
Okay.
Questions on the right side? Questions on the left side?
No.
Commissioner Vines, is there a motion?
Yes, I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the revised design proposed for 4104 Detonti, the street my grandfather grew up on, subject to review of final documents and materials by the Cultural Resources Office.
Could we have this seconded by someone whose grandfather also grew up on Detonti?
Second. No, just
My
kidding.
brother was
Okay, a motion has been made on the floor and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Presentation, sir.
Okay, Commissioners, serious moment. We reconvene now to hear an appeal of a denial. I note the quorum is present.
You said you note a quorum is present.
A quorum is present. I have enough commissioners to hear this.
Okay, I'm present for 2116 now.
Are you the appellant?
I'm the owner.
Good enough. Let's call the agenda item then. 2116 South 11th Street.
I'm Andrea Gagan with Cultural Resources Office, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you.
I need to enter into evidence of the record ordinance 57078 as amended by 63132, which is the Soulard ordinance, and ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925, the enabling ordinance, as well as the PowerPoint and the agenda. This is 2116 South 11th Street. The owner had installed windows. This is just the location across the street. There's a it's occupied, but it has a large stone wall around the property. This is the view from the street. The owner was stopped after putting these windows in. Was continued putting siding on, which normally they can put vinyl siding at the location in the Soulard Historic District. We probably would have not had them use a Dutch lap, but it's mostly installed at this point. There's also a rear window, but it's really these two windows that are in question. They appear to be vinyl windows with interior 6/6 muntins. Because there is a side yard here.
I own that too.
Yeah. Because there's more than 15 feet between the buildings, this is a semi-public facade, which means that it requires historic replacement windows and not vinyl. I believe this window was already.
That's been there for almost 20 years.
Yeah, you had to let her finish first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I don't know if you see that in the agenda, but basically, the siding partially complies because it is 4-inch siding. However, it is a Dutch lap, not a conventional lap siding. The windows, however, do not comply as they are vinyl. They are not historic replacement windows, and the profiles and dimensions don't replicate the original wood windows. In addition, the windows are 6/6 light, with interior muttons, which also do not comply with the historic district standards. Based on these preliminary findings, the Cultural Resource Office recommends the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the windows as they do not comply with the Soulard certified historic district standards. Now, I believe that the owner is pleading hardship for the case, but that's something she can address.
Questions? Left side? Right side? Thank you. Okay, now, let's see what I do next. Are you Ms. Lohr?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us who you are and tell us your address.
My name's Debbie Lohr, and my address is 2116 South 11th Street. I've been there 47 years.
Okay, is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us what you want us to do.
My son is in Japan, and he's serving our country. He's the one who got me the windows. I didn't know nothing about the windows. It was a surprise. You know, he's 24 years old. He was doing his mom a favor. I totally agree that they need to be the historical windows. I'm not in denial about that at all. The siding, I've had siding this all the way up for the last 15, 20 years. I'm just replacing the old siding with new. But it's had siding up at the last 15, 20 years. Because I got a permit to get the whole downstairs done and that window put in about 15 years ago. So.
Is it going to be your testimony that complying with historic district standards in all particulars would create a financial hardship for you?
Oh, God, yes. I'm on disability.
Okay, what evidence did you bring us, or what testimony would you like to make
I
that
didn't
point?
bring no evidence about, but I'm totally disabled. I can get something from my doctor. I get disability. I've had 3 hip operations, 3 bone marrow transplants. Friday, I just got 4 shots in my spine.
How much did the replacement windows cost?
Oh, God, they're a couple $1,000. I don't have it at all.
Okay. Commissioners,
I called several places to see if they could help me, but they said they couldn't because my taxes isn't totally paid off. So none of them can help me.
With the siding.
Commissioners on the right side, questions? Commissioner Richardson? Commissioner Vines? Commissioners on the left side?
So we're just talking about, and this is for staff too, about 2 windows here?
Yes, sir.
So was your testimony that those were $1,000 each?
No, sir, no. The new ones to replace are that much.
Oh, replacing them, gotcha,
Yes.
okay.
See, whenever I read up on it, but I didn't know that they had to see, if they could see it from the street. I didn't know that. The city guy was out there today again. So,
So he was out there again, okay. Here we go.
No.
So I would think to prove financial hardship, we'd need some kind of a bid on what these things cost, and I don't know, Mr. Chairman, what else we would need, but I would, is
Well,
it,
what we have is testimony.
right, all we have is testimony.
Well, what we have is testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Further questions on this side? Anything else you'd like to add for the record?
thank you guys so much.
More questions?
Would you like to try to elicit further detail on the hardship or any other matter by asking questions?
I move that we defer this until she can bring proof of hardship to this committee.
Do we have a ticking clock?
They said I had to be done by the 28th.
Who's they?
So we have a ticket.
The building inspectors gave me to the 28th to have it done.
Yeah, but I think if we defer, then they would need to.
Speak up.
So,
Either we can believe it based upon the testimony that
I
we've
could
heard.
show you my Medicare cards.
So,
You carry all those cards?
Well, I got to go, because I go to the doctor every 2 weeks.
I took a picture of them with my phone, but I don't know if that's ever going to work.
I got a cheap one of free phones from the government. I ain't got nothing good going my way.
so, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
having replaced these windows and those, they are significantly smaller than,
No, that was the size they were.
no, I'm saying, I'm just looking at the size of your windows. Having replaced larger windows with, what is it? It's one of the historic, it's the least, Rivertown, the least expensive of the historic replacement windows. In a 3-foot by 6.5-foot window is about $400 a window, and these are significantly smaller than a 3-foot by 6.5-foot window. So the cost to replace would be significantly less than that. It should not cost $1,000 a window. It should not cost $1,000 for both windows together.
Although it may well be, based upon testimony, that $400 might as well be $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
I
The
understand.
testimony was how much, and I am providing what I know about the windows
What do you think about the
versus,
siding?
I was gonna say,
siding
what
is-
about and the color. What-
I am,
They said that no color, it didn't matter, as long as it's in the, you
Yeah.
know, the brown, gray,
no issue with
green.
siding at all.
Well, to me, it looks like it's like almost like a spotlight, you know, in other words, if it could be
It
toned down.
looks so good, it makes,
I like it.
it makes the neighborhood look so much better.
It's more the shape that you're concerned about, the lapse?
Yeah, it's just that they have
The Dutch lap.
space underneath it that's normally like this.
So,
It's not a huge thing.
So what would,
so you would prefer the Dutch lap over the standard, no, the standard?
The regular lap.
Oh, I see.
what would happen if we separated out the issues? Approve the siding, deferred the windows? What would that do to the city?
Well, I mean, I would just have to talk to the inspector probably.
What?
Commissioner Robinson, have you got a motion?
I beg you for that. Beg.
I move that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial, and we approve the Dutch lap siding as installed, and that we defer judgment on the side windows for 30 days.
What should I do, bring a disability letter or something to you guys?
Is there a second?
I second.
Let's see what happens here. Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. If there's no discussion, I will call a roll. Commissioner Fathman, do you vote yes or no?
Oh,
Commissioner Ro,
abstain.
I'm sorry, did you say yes or no?
She abstained.
I have to think about it some more.
I'm sorry, can you just read, so it's allowing the siding and postponing deciding on the windows till she comes back with more information?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can vote yes for that. I can vote yes for that.
Okay. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. There was a question being asked by Adana, and that I
Well,
missed.
the only reason I was confused is that Commissioner Fathman voted for you. Commissioner
Okay.
Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Visintanner, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that is 7 yeses, Commissioners. You have approved this motion. Staff, would you speak to this?
He was talking.
Out the window, shall we?
Ms. Gagan? Would you speak to the inspector? Yes. Thank you very much.
And
Okay.
she's not so
Speak
clear
to
on what
staff.
she needs to bring to prove financial, so they'll let you know.
Okay, Commissioners, I see no further business on our agenda. Does anybody have any extra business?
I got some business. No.
Okay. Do I hear a motion then to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, then we stand adjourned.